So, as I mentioned, today's presentation is identity theft, brought to you by Connects Credit Union. So, we're going to go over some practical, simple precautions to reduce your exposure to identity theft. So, one of the things that you want to consider is your personal credit profile. You can obtain one free credit report from each of the three major credit bureaus annually. Experian, Equifax, and TransUnion are the three major credit bureaus. You can get a free copy of this report from www.annualcreditreport.com, and you will have immediate access. This report is the free version does not give you your scores, but it will give you all of the inquiries, any active trade lines and active trade lines. What that means, it's just simply if you have a credit card, if you have a car loan, if you have a student loan, which I'm sure some of you guys can probably relate to, all of those are each item is considered a trade line. One of the things that we suggest is that you stagger your requests once every 4 months. So what that will do is give you a chance to where maybe first quarter you may pull Experian, second quarter Equifax, maybe third quarter TransUnion, and then after that you'll be ready to kind of do it over again. So that you can kind of stagger them out and just see what you have being reported. Now, you can get all three at the same time, and that may be beneficial as well. And the reason why I say that is this. There are certain creditors, they may not report to all three credit bureaus. So if you do one credit bureau, say in Q1 or the first quarter, then there could be something that's on your other two credit bureaus that you don't see on that one. So when you have all three, you really have a better idea of your total profile. However, because they're free, you could maybe stagger them out a little bit and then you're able to check them all. So it's really your decision on how you want to approach that. Of course, if you stagger them, that's probably a little bit more cost effective. However, if the cost per se is not the issue, then I would suggest maybe get all three at the same time, because then you can just track all three credit bureaus and you'll know what's on all reports. So you don't want to necessarily take the chance that there's something that's been out there, say since the first quarter, but you didn't realize it because it wasn't reported on that particular credit bureau. So once you have your free reports, one of the things you can do is identify and verify all credit information, possible unknown accounts, judgments, inquiries, etc. Consider placing a fraud alert with the credit bureaus. You could do that for 90 days or 7 years. And the link is there provided where you can go into the fraud alert report on the Equifax website, and it actually can be reported across all three bureaus. If there is something on your credit report that you feel is potential fraud, or even if there's no potential fraud, but you put a fraud alert out there, and what that will do is creditors pull your credit, it will make them ask additional questions because they know that maybe there's a chance that someone has tried to before take your identity. So consider also placing a security freeze with the credit bureaus. So here's the information where you can do that. What a security freeze will do, if someone tries to apply for credit for you in your name, then the creditor that is pulling credit or trying to see if you qualify, they will not be able to actually get your information unless you remove the freeze. So it works for you because essentially, if you're applying for something, then you can have that freeze removed for about a 24-hour period. You apply for whatever it is you're applying for, a new car, a new home. And then once they tell you they've pulled the report, then you put the freeze back on. So that works out for you. Where it protects you, though, it can be a little bit of a nuisance because a lot of times, like being in the mortgage industry, I've seen where people have done this and I go to pull their credit report and I can't. And then they're like, oh, I got to give them a call you back. So sometimes it can be a little bit of a nuisance if you forget. But now they even have it set up to where you can have an app where you can just go right on the app, unfreeze it, and then, put the freeze back on. So just keep that in mind. That is a very valid option for you. But at the same time, it can be a little bit of a nuisance if you forget, but it protects you more if someone is actually trying to take your identity and apply for credit in your name, it's probably worth it to have it because it stops them right in their tracks. So definitely something to consider as well. And you can do this with all three bureaus, and it is free for you to do that. So just keep that in mind. So let's talk about what's in your wallet. So let's take a quick inventory of personal information in your possession. Multiple credit cards, perhaps blank checks. That may not be quite as relevant as it used to be with everything being plastic these days. Driver's license, health insurance, ID card, store receipts, automobile registration and or auto insurance card, frequent frequent flyer card, social security card, telephone numbers of family and friends, password cheat sheet card. So telephone numbers, family and friends. So typically, right, that's not in your wallet anymore. That's something that you're going to have in your phone. But also phones are another way that sometimes people have their identity stolen. So keep that in mind as well. The password cheat sheet, everything that you do now has a password. So it's like a million of them to keep up with. And I know people tell you, like, don't write it down, but how do you keep up with all of those? So we're going to talk about some of those strategies as well. So what you want to do is maybe make a complete photocopy of everything that you would typically carry with you in your wallet or purse, front and back. The important contact information in the event that something is lost or stolen from your wallet or purse. You want to store it in a secure location for access when needed, possibly on a Sunday. So ensure you have a secure place to store sensitive information. This is important because if you were to, for example, lose your wallet or purse, then what would happen? You can go back to this photocopy and really take a look at everything that you currently have. And because in the moment, you may feel so much pressure or stress, you may not remember like all the credit cards you had and everything that was in there, the personal identifications that you had in there. But if you refer back to the sheet, now you know exactly what everything is. And if you have the phone numbers, you can start now calling the banks, calling the credit card company, DMV, whatever you need to do. And it kind of just will put your mind at ease because you're not trying to remember it all because you've already prepared and you stored this information somewhere secure. So now if something happens, then it's important. So the reason why we say possibly on a Sunday, some people have safety deposit boxes at their bank. Banks aren't open on Sundays. So if you had a situation occur over the weekend, then you want to be somewhere where you want it to be somewhere where you can access it any day if something were to happen. So then you can get in, grab your information, and start making the necessary calls to make sure you protect yourself in the event that your wallet was lost and or wallet purse were lost and or stolen. So treat your mail carefully. Contact United States Postal Service to request a vacation hold. They can be 3 to 30 days and it's free of charge. So if you're going on vacation and you know you're going to say be out of town for a little bit, instead of having all that mail just piling up in your mailbox, or especially if you have a mailbox with like street access and there's no lock on it, then instead of having your mail just going there and piling up where someone could maybe come by and go through your mail, then you can put a hold at the Postal Service. When you get back, you can go pick up your mail and you can have the whole release. Okay. You can do that at the United States Postal Service website, or you can call their customer service number. Also, you can fill out a vacation hold card at the local post office as well. Now, never place outgoing mail in the mailbox with the flag up. A red flag on a mailbox equals green light for identity thieves, mailbox solicitors, and check washing. So you do have people who will, if they see a red flag on your mailbox, it's up, then there's a good chance that you have maybe checks in there because perhaps you're paying some bills and you're sending that out. So they will target those mailboxes. Deposit at the local post office or United States Postal Service collection box. So if you have some mail to go out, I know some apartment complexes or housing complexes in the subdivision, they have like mail containers that you can send outgoing mail that are locked. And so you can't just easily get into them and easily access them. So that's definitely an option. Or you can just go by your post office, maybe while you're out in your travels, on your way to work, on your way to class, and just drop it off at the post office. And then that helps protect you as opposed to maybe having it in your personal mailbox with the flag up, unless you have a mailbox that does lock and secure. That works, of course. But if it's just your standard mailbox where anyone can open it, this is definitely something you want to keep in mind. So if you don't have one, consider purchasing a locking mailbox. Immediately follow up with creditors, banks, etc. if you don't receive your monthly statements as scheduled. So if you still receive statements in the mail or bills in the mail, then what you want to do, if you know you normally get it every month and you didn't get it one month, you definitely want to check with them to make sure it was sent, and to make sure that there's been no activity on your account, just in case, because a lot of times those statements, it has your name, your address, and a lot of times it has your full account number as well. So you just want to be mindful of that. Consider eliminating paper, credit card, and bank statements and converting to e-statement and online bill pay. It minimizes the possibility of stolen mail, and it also minimizes the need to shred sensitive documents. Visit your bank's credit card issuers or creditors' websites frequently to monitor regular account activity. Account activity awareness will limit damage if compromised, discuss embezzlement schemes, control receipt of statements, and review monthly or more often online. General prevention ideas. Websites and apps that you can consider would be mint.com. It will allow you to see all of your accounts in one place. And guys, most of your banks now, with their online banking, you can kind of connect your other accounts that you have at other financial institutions all in one place. So the good benefit of that is the more that you can see in one place. So if you have several accounts and you can see them all in one place, you can really take a look at it and make a decision in regards to, my savings looks fine, my checking looks fine, my investment accounts look good. So it's a little bit easier if you can see everything in one place. Mint.com is a great website for that. But a lot of times your financial institutions now have services where you can actually import information, and you can't necessarily like move money between those accounts, but you can view all of your accounts in one place just to make sure everything looks good. I think it's just a good practice, especially now that we have applications and on our phone and on our tablets and iPads. This information is really accessible. So you can really log in real quick, take a look at everything, and just make it more like a daily practice. Make sure everything looks good and then go about your day. Credit card and bank accounts. You want to examine your credit card and checking and savings account statements closely, because sometimes fraud is committed where there could be one small transaction that you don't really pay attention to. It's not really impacting your balance that much. And if the person that is trying to commit fraud is able to maybe get away with a quick $3 purchase and nothing happens, then they'll turn around and do a $300 purchase. So just keep that in mind as you're really pay attention to your statement kind of line by line. And if you see, even if it's a small transaction that looks out of place, you don't recognize where it came from, then definitely bring that to the attention of your financial institution. Again, review more frequently, whether it's daily or weekly online. Be familiar with your credit card and bank statement closing dates, because that will help you kind of track if you know it closes around the middle of the month and you kind of get the statement around the third or fourth week of the month. If you don't get that statement, then that will be kind of a red flag for you. Reconcile your account at least monthly. Again, just knowing all the transactions that came out in your account and that you know that these were legitimate transactions. So you can print photo ID required or see my ID on the back of your credit cards. Still not effective with some merchants due to automation. And let's be honest, guys, I think we've all, you've been at a restaurant or out at a bar hanging out with friends, and no one's asking you for your ID or anything because everything's moving so fast. So that's definitely not a stopgap for sure. But what it can do is potentially be something that you can do, because you may have that person that will say, hey, I need to see your ID, because they've actually paid attention. And that could be the one time that will keep someone from being able to commit fraud with your account. But again, it could be a thing where no one will even ask and they'll just keep it moving. So not 100%, but it may just be worth it just in case, because it could stop that one time where someone is trying to commit fraud. Request via telephone or in writing that each of your credit card companies and banks remove your name from any marketing and promotional lists that they may sell or share with other companies. You may be able to request for your credit card companies to remove you from their marketing lists. Optional, consider going paperless again, promote benefits of online banking, credit card access, setting account alert reminders, etc. So let's talk about requests via telephone, that each of your credit card companies remove your name from any marketing or promotional lists. These marketing and promotional lists can be great, because there could be great promotions, balanced transfers that would really be really beneficial for you. However, when you have marketing materials coming to you in the mail all the time, and a lot of times it may have a full application in it of, hey, you can apply here, or for example, here's some checks that you can write off of your line of credit, to do a balance transfer, make other purchases. These are promotional materials, but they're also instruments that people can use to actually make transactions on your accounts. So while it's beneficial to know that information, having all that mail coming to you could potentially put you at risk, because now you have all these marketing materials floating out there. And if someone gets a hold of that, they can apply for things in your name or get promotional checks. And some of those promotional checks, I'm sure you guys have seen them, where you'll get a promotional check in the mail for a new loan. And it will look just like a check, and it'll tell you the only thing you have to do is deposit it. And if you deposit it, you've entered into a loan agreement. Well, if someone does that, excuse me, and they're able to commit fraud, it could be just that simple. So just be mindful of what's coming in your mail. Um, and usually you can request from most of your credit card companies that they will remove you from their marketing list. And now, of course, a lot of companies, whether it's credit cards or your financial institutions, they will send you emails with this information as well, letting you know whatever promotions they have. So that may be another option. Come off of the paper list and you just receive email promotions. Okay. Now, only include your name at the top of checks. And again, I don't know, these days people still carry checks, but you see them less and less, right? Because most of us are just walking around plastic. But if you're still carrying checks around as like your daily activities, never include your social security number, date of birth, or telephone number on your checks. Merchants may ask for your driver's license to note other personal identifiers, including address. Refuse to add, again, your social security number. If requested by the merchant, they will back down before refusing the sale. Also, look out for bills in the mail in your name from creditors you don't do business with. So for example, you get a bill from Lowe's, however, you have no accounts with Lowe's. Always arrange to have new checkbooks mailed to your local branch versus your home mailbox. Um, Mailboxes, and portfolios containing new checks are kind of obvious to identity thieves. So what they will do is that's an easy target. So I would say if you're having some checks delivered, have them delivered to your local branch so you can just go pick them up. Again, if you live in a area where you have a mailbox that is secured and locked, then at that point, that's fine. You can have it delivered to your home. But if you just have a mailbox, again, that anyone can just pull the flap down and grab anything, you may just want to have things like that delivered to the branch. Now, protect your social security number. Never give your social security number to anyone by telephone unless you initiated the call to a known entity. So a lot of places when you call them, they will ask you for verification purposes, maybe give your social or the last four of your social. If you've initiated the call and it's to one of your financial institutions, that's fine. But if they're calling you for a reason and then they ask you to verify yourself and they're calling you, be very mindful, leery of that, because these days you have a lot of fraudulent attempts where they will call you. It'll sound very professional, like it's coming from a call center. It may even show up on your caller ID and will say the name of Capital One, Bank of America, Connects Credit Union, and it's not. So just keep that in mind. But if you're making the call, then that's different. Avoid having your social security number used for IDs at work if possible, which most employers now have really gotten away from that. Question merchants who request your social security number. If they assist, you may want to take your business elsewhere. And again, if you're initiating the call, that's one thing. But if they're calling you and really trying to make you give them your social, then that is something that should be a bit of a red flag. I normally say if you're getting a phone call and they're asking you a lot of questions that you don't feel comfortable with, I would disconnect that call and call that particular creditor back at a number that you know and have identified, and verify that the call was legitimate as well, because that's also something else that you may want to really consider, because sometimes again you're getting calls that are fraudulent and it will look like it's legitimate, but if you call them back at a number you know, then if someone's able to verify it, then now you can feel pretty comfortable with that. But if you call back and of course no one knows and it's a number that's not even registered with the company, then you know that was really a chance to just kind of where someone was trying to commit fraud with you. And if so, I will plug on Chelsea. If you could just let me know if I'm good to continue.
I think you're all set to go. I'll keep an eye out on the chat box for you.
Okay, perfect. All right, so let's talk about digital protection. So digital protection, this is something, of course, most of what we're doing probably right now is online, especially now, right? With the pandemic that we're all facing. Even if you weren't doing as many things online, you're kind of being forced to do more things online now. Example, the way that we're doing this presentation. So digital protection, there's a couple of sites you can go to. The site listed here, www.onguardonline.gov. It's an FTC site. And it will kind of really walk you through some of the options that you have to protect yourself and how some of these fraudulent schemes are presented. So we're going to talk about a few now. So avoid being hooked by phishing scams. What is phishing? Phishing is a term coined by computer hackers who use email to phish the internet, hoping to hook you into giving your logins, passwords, and or credit card information. Do not reply to email pop-up messages or text messages that ask for personal identifying information. Do not click on links with messages either. When in doubt, contact your financial institution directly via a known website address or a known telephone number. So what happens with phishing, guys, you may get an email or a text message and it will have the exact logos and branding of an institution that you do business with. But they may tell you, it may have an alarming message like, we need you to call us now. We think someone may have hacked your account, or please log into your account to take advantage of this promotional offer. Things like that, because if you log in, now they have your information and now you're vulnerable. So just be very mindful of emails that present themselves like that. I would say typically if you get promotions in the mail, you can always go to the website outside of the links in the email. You can always go to their website and then pull up your account. And usually if the promotion or offer is legitimate, then it's referenced somewhere in your account or on their website, and that you can, or give them a call that you can refer to. So keep that in mind. Only conduct personal business on secure websites. For example, if the site has the HTTPS, that S stands for security. So for example, like the Connects Federal Credit Union website, that site is secured. Also check for secure area padlock icon. And again, typically your secure sites, it'll be the URL will be HTTPS. And then also you'll see this padlock icon as well. And that lets you know that that particular site is secured. Maintain, update your antivirus, firewall, or spyware software. Buyer beware when purchasing items via online auction sites. Use secure payment systems or credit cards because you have more dispute protection. Never purchase with money orders or cash. Consider maintaining one credit card earmarked for internet purchases only. So in that case, because I'll be honest with you guys, there's not a 100% fail-proof way to protect yourself from identity theft, but what you can do is maybe try to limit your exposure and what the damage would cause. So for example, if you have a credit card that you typically make online purchases with, it's a credit card. So let's just say if someone were if that card was compromised and someone was able to get that account and make charges, you can always call your credit card company. They're usually pretty good at investigating it. They'll lock down the card, issue you a new account while they investigate. Well, it's a credit card. So this isn't money that is actually coming out of your personal bank account. So it's a little bit different when it's your cash. And maybe if it takes the bank a couple of days to be able to work things out, if you're in a bind and now all of a sudden you don't have any cash that you can access. But if it's a credit card, then at that point, you may be able to go a couple of days because you still have some cash in the bank, or maybe you have another credit card. So we would just say maybe keep one credit card earmarked for your internet online purchases only. Use a dummy email account. So for example, most places now will ask you for your email and they want to put you on their marketing list, or they want to send you coupons. And these are great things. You can find a lot of deals, get a lot of sales. So I'm not saying not to do that. But what you want to do is maybe have an email account designated for that. Because remember, the more emails you have coming through with promotions and spam, the more likely it is that you may have some that account can be compromised because of all the activity happening there. So you can set up free email accounts. They're available. I mean, one of the probably more popular ones now are Gmail. You still have Yahoo and I mean, tons of other ones. So I would say set up a free email account and let that be the one that you give like merchants when they want to add you to their marketing list and email list. If it gets compromised or email bombed with spam, you can drop it and start over because you really don't have anyone communicating with you there. It's just you're using it for, say, marketing materials. But reserve your primary email for your family and friends. And the less clutter in your inbox, the easier it is not only for you to communicate with your family and friends, but also identify if an email comes over that looks a little strange. So change your login IDs and passwords. Make your passwords long. Don't use a common phrase. Don't reuse your passwords, and don't store your passwords within your browser. Use maybe some security software that has a two-factor authentication on it. That is really good as well. Now, I know some of this stuff probably sounds a little unrealistic, right? Like, who wants to make their passwords long? Because you have so many of them, so it's hard to remember. And yes, your default is you want to use a common phrase because it's easier to remember. And then, or you want to maybe reuse your password so you'll know, like, 9 out of 10, my password is going to be one of two things. Those are all things that are very common for most of us to do. Unfortunately, that leaves you very vulnerable as well for hackers, because one of the things that they will do as a strategy, if they're able to hack one of your accounts, they're going to try that password with other accounts that you may have because they know the default is maybe using the same password across multiple accounts. So just kind of keep that in mind. The two-factor authentication is really good because then not only do you have to get in two different ways. So you may have to log in and then you may have a text message sent to your phone that has a security code that you have to put in after that. So again, might be a little bit tedious, but it will protect you because, for example, if someone were to try to hack your account, but then you get a text on your cell phone saying, here's your new security code to access our site, and you're thinking, wait a minute, I haven't tried to access this site. Why am I getting this text message? That could be a red flag for you right there to maybe make a call to that institution or take a look at your accounts and just see if there's been any attempts of fraud or someone trying to log into your account. Avoid using common computers for sensitive personal business, online bill payment, checking investment accounts, uh, internet cafes at work, on vacation, business trips, public libraries. So I know with you guys are students, so your workplace, or potentially were students, you have your workplace, and then you may have like the online libraries with the public computers. We don't really suggest that you do like personal business such as that on computers that are being shared by multiple people. It leaves you open in regards to being able to, although most of those computers have software on them that as you log out of it, it's supposed to like wipe your browsers clean. But it's just one of those things that we don't suggest, because if someone is very computer savvy, like most hackers are, then they can usually break through those codes and firewalls. So just keep that in mind when you're using computers that are in common areas in public places. Okay, limit the amount of personal information available on your social media profile, such as date of birth, address, etc. So social media, guys, this is a way that, I mean, a lot of identity theft now is coming from social media, because a lot of us, like, we tell a lot of our lives on social media. So when you're about, it tells a lot of information about you, but be mindful of that. Like, I don't know if you want your address on social media for people to view. Do you really want them to have your full date of birth? And maybe you put the month and day, but not the year. So it's not necessarily that type of information, because date of birth is a common way that people identify you. So just be mindful of that. Proactively manage your social media privacy settings and limit profile information, and only accept friends and followers from people you know. Limit the amount of time and place data that you expose through social media. So, for example, if you know that you're going to go on a great trip to Spain, you may want to wait until you're back from that trip before you start posting about it and letting everyone know that you went to Spain. And the reason why, because if you're letting people know where you are, you're on vacation, if someone, because guys, keep in mind, identity theft isn't always people who don't know you. Sometimes it's being committed by people that you know, people that you consider family, friends, or coworkers. So it could be a situation where someone knows where you live, and then you're posting about like, hey, I'm out of town right now, and they know like, okay, well, I can go to their home because no one's there. So just be mindful of how you're reporting the time and the places that you're going on social media, just because you don't want to leave yourself open. I can't tell you the number of times we've seen fraud, and it was being committed by someone's family member or coworker or someone they consider a friend, and they took advantage of their information or just the comfort of them sharing information. So just be mindful of that. So, because yes, even people you know can be identity thieves. So just keep that in mind. And I know it's a hard thing to think about, but unfortunately, we've seen that several times. Identity thieves, they monitor chat rooms, dating, and social networking sites for victims. After gaining a victim's trust, they may ask for money, out of the country business trip emergencies, cashier's checks, converted to cash and wired to, say, an online lover. So just be mindful of those scams. You can report scams like that if you ever get like those emails saying that I'm a prince in Egypt, and uh, we want to send you $1 million because we found out you're a family heir, things like that. Just keep that in mind, because again, normally it'll say, for us to get the wire to you, we need you to send us X amount of dollars. So keep all that in mind, and you can report those scams to the website listed here. So here's some action steps for identity theft victims. And again, guys, unfortunately, there's a good chance that most of us will be victim of identity theft in one way or another. So here's some things that you can do if you were to find yourself in that situation. Contact all creditors and financial institutions to inform them of the fraud and place a hold or freeze on your account. If your checks are stolen or have been counterfeited, contact the major check verification companies to notify retailers not to accept the checks from your compromised accounts. And that would be through telechecks, and that's the phone number for telecheck right there. To find out if an identity thief has been passing bad checks in your name, you can also call this number here. We suggest that you contact each of the three major credit bureau fraud units to report the identity theft and add a fraud alert statement to your credit profile. And again, those are the numbers and the websites for the three major credit bureaus, so you can report that. Contact law enforcement immediately and maintain a copy of the police report from your local police, U.S. Postal Inspection Service, Social Security Administration, FBI, or the United States Secret Service. You can file a complaint with the FTC, and you can do that at the website below, www.identitytheft.gov, or you can call them at 877 ID theft. The good thing is there, if you are a victim of identity theft, what's great about them, they will help you set up a recovery plan and help you put your plan into action. Because again, a lot of times if this happens, you're almost like, I don't know what to do. Where do I start? So they do a really good job of just helping you set that plan up and walking you through how do you put it in action? What are your next steps? If you find yourself a victim of tax fraud, you can call the IRS Identity Theft Protection Unit at the number listed here. Also, as a resident of Virginia, you can contact the Virginia Office of the Attorney General. They can issue you a a VA or Virginia identity theft passport, which will allow you to have a card that will indicate that you are a victim of identity theft. Keep detailed notes of all of your conversations that you're having with your financial institutions or any of these agencies. You want to keep the names of who you spoke with, the dates, the times, and what were the key discussion points. So here's some homework for you guys. Top 10 action steps. You can go to annualcreditreport.com and order your credit history. Set yourself a reminder maybe to repeat every 4 months. You can go to the donotcall.gov to place your telephone numbers on the National Do Not Call Registry. You can go to the optoutprescreen.com to opt out a pre-screened credit card and insurance offers for yourself and your spouse. You can also, item 4, go to dmachoice.org to manage, reduce, or eliminate direct mail offers, catalogs, magazines, and other merchant offers. You can go to the Equifax site to set a fraud alert, to place a 90-day fraud alert tag on your credit report if you suspect you have been a victim of fraud. Call each of your credit card companies. Usually the numbers are on the back of the card, which is why you want to make those copies front and back so you'll know exactly who to call. Also, these days, guys, you can just plug all that information in your phone as well. But of course, if you had your phone in your purse, ladies, then of course, if that's stolen, for example, then now your phone's gone too. So that's why phones are great because you could have all that information in your phone. But if your phone was to be compromised, you still want to have that information somewhere secure. So then, of course, you can tell them to stop mailing you convenience checks and remove you from their marketing list. Purchase a confetti cut shredder and use it regularly. So any information, even if it's just junk mail, if it has your name, address on it, applications, just go ahead and put all that stuff in the shredder, guys. Get a good confetti cut shredder so then someone can't just go dumpster diving and pick up your mail and see all your personal information. Use a shredder. It's a relatively cheap investment, but it is really, really good to keep you just from having a bunch of information out there, because you'd be surprised how many people go dumpster diving just to see what information they can dig up on people. Establish online banking and credit card access and set up alerts for each. Those alerts are great because, again, if someone is trying to access your account and you're getting email alerts or text message alerts or alerts through the applications, they're letting you know, hey, there was just a transaction charged to your card. Now you can look into it and say, okay, yes, I know what that is. That's my Amazon subscription. That's my Netflix subscription. It's Apple Music. But if it's something that you don't recognize, now you can jump on it right away. And a lot of times you can actually call the company and get them to stop the transaction before it even posts to your account. Avoid sweepstakes and other sign-up offers. Photocopy and or compile detailed list of all your purse and wallet contents that you normally carry around. Again, so if something were to happen, you know exactly who you can contact. So final thoughts, minimize your profile, control your mailbox exposure, monitor credit and online banking, and if it doesn't make sense, report it. And right now, I will open up the floor for Q&A.
Again, Marlon, thank you so much for all of the information. Oh, we do have a question in the chat. Let's see.
Okay.
So the note says, I experienced identity theft 1 year ago. I did call the credit unions, but I didn't call the police. Shall I still need to call the local police about this?
Great question. If it was 1 year ago, you can reach out to the local police. I'm not sure with if there's per se a statute of limitations in regards to you've made them aware. If you haven't had anything come up yet, and I'm not sure if it would be as beneficial. Typically, when it happens right away, it's good because you can have that police report. And some places, when you contact them, they'll ask you that. So I would say it doesn't hurt to maybe call the police, maybe the non-emergency number, and let them know what happened a year ago and see if you can still file a report. They may advise that you can, and if you can, it doesn't hurt, but they may tell you it's not necessarily as worth it because it was over a year ago, and if you haven't had anything pop up since then. But I would say it doesn't hurt to check. Normally what you want to do is do it right away, because as you get into this more, sometimes the companies will ask you, did you file, if there are any claims, they'll ask you, did you file a police report? And they may want a copy of that on file.